Hi, welcome to the Cutting Room. I'm Stephen Rupp, Director of Ornithologic, and this is a Director's Commentary. I chose to do a documentary on birdwatchers because it's where my interests lay. I am a keen birdwatcher myself, and I noticed the misrepresentation of them in the current media, such as every time there's a newspaper report on a rare bird, birdwatchers are always referred to as twitchers, which is entirely incorrect. So my documentary aimed to, firstly, to right this wrong, secondly, to educate and inform, but also to entertain as well. Ornithologic is obviously a documentary about birds and birdwatchers. This means it's a hybrid, sort of a fusion of the human and wildlife documentary genres. This gave me a broader base for the conventions that I could use to insert into my documentary. Hybrid genre documentaries are in fashion at the moment. It's the latest convention for documentaries to be more original in the sense that they can have an interesting view on two or more different topics, or a topic presented from a different point of view. I started off the documentary with the titles. I placed them at the start to break from convention, having them at the end like they do in a normal film. I had them as just a black screen with the white titles appearing over them, with an interview with my father, also a keen birdwatcher, with the audio of that playing over with an overdub chaffinch singing.
Way that we live our lives. It's very easy not to connect with nature in any way apart from being annoyed with it when it puts leaves on the railway line or snow on the roads.
This, I felt, was an original and interesting way to start the documentary. The black screen acts as an enigma code with the voiceover, which doesn't specifically mention birds, but it's enough of an idea to give you the clue that people are really passionate about it, and the chaffinch singing is an audible reference. So after having the black titles, the first person you see in the documentary is me. A recent survey said that there were 6 million birdwatchers in the UK. I'm the presenter of this, and I chose to present it myself because I wanted someone who was passionate about the subject, because I felt that way it would give it greater depth. Because if you've just got a face reading off a script, then it just makes it just that bit more vacuous and shallow and put on, rather. Whereas if you had me speaking from the heart about birds, then I feel the viewer would have had a better idea of the passion that birdwatchers have, which I thought was a strength of one of the strengths of my documentary. This challenges the current conventions to have a celebrity or, eye candy presenting the documentary. I'm not a famous name, so that doesn't bring the viewers in. So we're acting entirely on the merit of what we filmed, rather than any big celebrity hit, which I like. I think that's the strength of my documentary. It's a convention to use a montage of images over the start of the film. It's visually exciting. You got images just flashing up in front of you, and I chose to use that at the start to reveal the breadth of the British avifauna, from the little egret, the formerly rare white fish-eating heron, to backlit mallards on a golden lake. And I feel that using this convention gave an aesthetic edge to the documentary. Things documentaries do are make heavy use of interviews. I interviewed G. Greco, a known Suffolk birdwatcher, in my documentary. I filmed him outside, because obviously that's where you'd expect to find birdwatchers. It puts them in the context of, their habitat, if you will.
Yes, I would say I'm closer to nature. I mean, I've always had an interest in wildlife, not just birds, but plants, butterflies. Birds are very visible. You can get them in your garden, you can go to anywhere in the world, wherever you go, there's always birds. So, they're very accessible to people.
The questions that I asked him stemmed mostly from the audience research about what people wanted to know about birdwatchers and birdwatching, such as what is the difference between a birdwatcher and a twitcher. I used the interview with G as a method of progressing the narrative of the documentary, because I asked him a question and his answer would then lead on to another part of the documentary that audience feedback also suggested that was required, such as the where do you go to be a birdwatcher, what do you need, where do you go, etc.
Wherever you go, there's always birds, so they're very accessible to people.
Part of the reason for this accessibility, you need no equipment to enjoy birds as part of a landscape. However, a pair of binoculars is almost essential to shrink the distance between you and the bird and making it easier to watch and achieve an identification. A telescope isn't essential, but they're excellent for using with distant birds, as they are 2 to 8 times more powerful than binoculars. However, they're very bulky and expensive and require a tripod to use effectively. The best way to experience this bird effect is to try it yourself. You can start by feeding your garden birds with cheap feeder and birdseed. Soon you should attract common species like great tit, blue tit and robin, while spreading soft fruit on open grass should attract dunnocks and blackbirds. In harsh winters you may attract fieldfares and redwings, and the supply of food can be life-saving. Birds flock where there is habitat and food, which modern farming practices have greatly reduced in recent years. What's the difference between a birder and a twitcher?
A bird watcher is just a general person who will look at everyday birds in the garden, maybe visit the odd reserve or two. A birder tends to be a bit more serious and maybe have a bit more knowledge, and a twitcher is someone who will go around and chase rare birds, whether within the county or all over the country.
The scenes in the middle, the how, where and why scenes, as I refer them to, the where do you need, the what do you need and where do you go to be a birdwatcher, are scenes that stem from audience feedback, because in the earlier stages of the production I found that I was assuming too much prior knowledge of what the audience wanted, and so audience feedback really helped me target those at the correct sort of knowledge base. So it's the only section, I know dumbed down has negative connotations, but really you do need to be pitching these slightly simpler bits to connect with the target audience. But I've also balanced it out with the scenes towards the end, which are basically just bird watching to appeal to the more experienced member of the target audience. The how, where and why scenes also contribute to the structure of the documentary, following on the classical documentary structure, which is sort of like an essay in a way. It starts with an introduction, and you have the how, the where, the why, the explanations, and then it ends with the case study, which was in this case the going out and seeing shorelarks and pink-footed geese at Holcombe.
When you feel confident with the birds in your garden, you can start to visit local nature reserves. The RSPB is Britain's largest wildlife conservation landowner and should have a reserve near you. Coastal wetlands, lakes and deciduous woodlands are the best habitats to start with, as they contain easy to see and brightly coloured common species. Holcombe on the North Norfolk coast is a great place to start due to the variety of habitats, from the beach to the woodlands to the marsh. I went in late November to see what I could find. Here we have a flock of 14 shorelarks, which are a great example of the aesthetic appeal of birds. Not only are they absolutely fantastically sort of greyish brown streaking on the body with a yellow and black bandit mask on the face, but also in lovely surroundings here with the dunes with the sea just over there and the purple and dark greens of Holcombe pines over there. Holcombe offers large flocks of pink-footed geese, which can be one of Norfolk's best wildlife spectacles. It's also very easy to view. We were here at midday and this large flock of pink-footed geese flew in. And often, just the sound and experience can be enough. You don't even need binoculars to view them. But they help if you want to achieve views like this. The scene I'm most proud about is the where I went to Holcombe on the North Norfolk coast to film shorelarks and pink-footed geese. I was mostly pleased about this scene due to the wildlife was more interesting and more varied from what I featured previously in the documentary, and it's just, once I'd edited it, it was just like being birding yourself, having realistic views and a cross-section of species that you would normally expect to find there, which I feel gave greater depth to the documentary. It's not like one of those nature documentaries where you see David Attenborough walking through the forest in Papua New Guinea and all these really spectacular birds are just leaping out at him, because in reality it's not like that. So what my documentary I'm very proud about was the
it gives you a realistic sense of what it is like to be a birdwatcher in Britain.